Vikramasamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Nachidvan Nutidishchir Sadhanam Om Mahaganapate Namaha Apara Satchit Sukhavari Raji Yasyom Matram Bhavanam Samastam Guhahitam Tam Ramanam Gabhiram Chinta Vihinam Hridijantayami. Today we are picking up one of the most important, a very short and crisp text known as Guru Stuti. The Guru Stuti was composed by Vidyaranya, one of the most famous pontiffs of Sringeri, who had written a book known as Shankara Vijaya, containing the entire story of Adi Shankara, who was the founder of monism, that is the Advaita Vedanta. He was one of the first teachers to establish it in the world and also to propagate it throughout, that the ultimate reality is one and not two or more. And that ultimate reality is the only consciousness. It is formless. It has no attributes. So, the entire story of Adi Shankara was written by him. So this has been extracted from the 10th chapter, Shloka 48 onwards, in Shankara Vijaya by Swami Vidyaranya. And Vidyaranya was linked with his Shishyas, were the people who founded the Vijayanagara kingdom, Harira Bhuttas, and he was very famous because this Vidyaranya wrote the commentary on the entire Vedas. There is not one who has written the commentary on the entire Vedas. There have been some who have written for part of it, like Mahidra and all that, but he was known as Sayanacharya before he took his monkhood. So the Sayanacharya became Vidyaranya after he took his monkhood, and we have got in our library this book, the full book, the Srimad Shankara Vijaya by Vidyaranya. This Guru Stuti, actually, what is the context in which this Guru Stuti was composed by him? What is it contained? It is an epitome of the entire philosophy and the sadhanas, the spiritual practices according to the Upanishads by which we can reach the absolute state. But it has got the pretext of a small story behind it. Adi Shankara, he went from place to place and country to country because at that time the country was beset with a lot of karma. People thought that their only duty is to perform yagas and yajnas, and thus they were never thought of thinking of any mukti. They were not bothered about any salvation or liberation. They were only bothered about getting a beautiful place where they can have all comforts, luxuries and enjoyment 100 times more intense than they could ever imagine on this earth. And they called it the heavens, the Swarga. So, Somayagam Yajate Swargagamaha. People who wanted Swargas and heavens, they used to make elaborate rituals. So, they were full of rituals. To this extent, there was a category of philosophers known as Mimamsakas. They were very much based on the Vedas, but they never accepted a Lord, a Supreme Lord, or a Supreme Consciousness. They said, these rituals alone are sufficient, that's all, you go on doing the ritual, you will get Swarga where you will enjoy, that is all, what else you require? Everything will be done by this karma, these activities. Each activity creates a particular energy known as apurva, And that only is sufficient, there is no need for a God and there is none. And still we accepted it because they accepted the authority of the Vedas. That is why it was considered as one of the Rastika Darshanas. That is one of our orthodox philosophies which we accepted. So these Mimamsakas were many, so he wanted that people should be released from the clutches of these ritualists, and people, it should be placed before the people that there is a very high objective which is beyond all these swargas and narakas, beyond all these heavens and hells, by reaching which they never have to take birth again. And all these miseries, calamities, catastrophes, all can be put an end once for all, for good. So he placed such a view before the people, and so he was going on selecting the acharyas, people who consider themselves as preceptors in the field of Mimamsa, in the field of the Karmakanda, in the field of the ritualism. And he used to go and argue with them. And then he made it a condition, if you lose, you will become a monk like me and come to my line, and from then onwards you will propagate this concept of monism. There is the Advaita. And one of them was Mandan Mishra, a very famous Mimamsaka. He went to his house and then he finally defeated him in the argument, but his wife was an avatar of Saraswati, the goddess of learning. She was also known as Sharada, or Ubhayabharati. So when she defeated him before Mandana Mishra could take up his monkhood, his wife interfered, look here, I am his better half. You have only defeated the lower half. I am the better half. So you let argue with me and defeat me, then we will accept, then my husband will take up sannyas. But not otherwise. He said, okay, no objection. But then the lady, you see, he was a pure monk who became a monk at the age of 7. So there was one subject of which, he had no personal knowledge. She caught him at it. She was putting question on eugenics, the science of sex and love. That is a field which unfortunately Adi Shankara was not concerned with. Then he requested her, well, even though I have already defeated, I accepted your proposition that I should also argue with you. Now you should give me another concession in return. Give me 1 month's time, I shall come and answer any of your questions on this subject. Then he goes and asks his disciples to take care of his body, and by his yogic powers, he transfers his body into that of a king called America, who had just then died. And his body was being brought to the cremation ground, and there was, he had more than 100 queens, they were all weeping, and all his subjects were all disconsolate. Then these people are guarding his body because he will come back. Because he wanted to enter into somebody's body so that he will have a first-hand knowledge on the subject of sex. He rules so wisely because, you see, he is one of the sharpest of minds. A yogi can become the best engineer in the world. He can become the best musician in the world. He can become anything he wants. It's nothing difficult for him. So naturally, as the wisest of the yogis, he won the approbation of one and all of his subjects. And he had some wise ministers who suspected he can't be that America. That America was a mediocre king. So somebody has entered his body, he is different, and I am sure if I left his body somewhere, so I should find and destroy it. And in the meantime, more than 1 month was over, the feast which was given to that lady, he was just enjoying his status as a king. his disciples got worried. Oh my Lord, he may not get again involved into the world, and we can't get such a guru, and it's not possible. He had reached a state of no return. But how is it? He has not come back. How could it be? He can't be again engaged into the world. A man that should get into the world and becomes a Jivan Mukta, there is nothing in the world which can ever draw him back into it. The world has become a paper tiger. It cannot use its stings. So, its fangs have been removed. Then how is it? So, they place him in the charge of some of the junior disciples, and his four main disciples, Pabapada, Hasta Malaka, so they all go. They go to that place because they don't know where he's gone. They have no idea at all. So they are searching, and finally they understood that there is a very wise king and all that. The dates coincided with the date on which he left his body. So they put one and one together, and they reached the king's palace. And as mendicants, they enter. They get free entrance because there is no king in those days who will ever deny an entrance to a mendicant, and that to an erudite scholar. So these disciples, they go inside, and then they sing a song of awakening. And that song is called the Guru Stuti. It is not a simple song of awakening. Number one, it looks as if they were telling him, see, the last line of every one of these will come, Tattvamasi Tattvamasi Tattvam. O king, you are not a king. You are that reality. You are that. And you are that reality about whom the Mahavakyas of the Vedas declare that you are that. The individual soul is no more. There is only the universal, the absolute consciousness that alone exists, and you are that. And it is called the Guru Stuti because they are indirectly praising the Shankara that you are not the king, you are that very Lord, you are the supreme consciousness. So they are offering these hymns to their Guru. So this is called the Guru Stuti, the pedagogic hymns of their Guru. But then it has got a different meaning. Guru is in everybody's inside. Where is the Guru? Bhagavan Ramana is again and again told, your Guru is not external, he is internal, he is here at all times. But then, as some are not capable of drawing the benefits of the internal Guru, in its compassion, the internal Guru who is verily his self, he comes out in the form of a Guru whom he deserves, and then he takes over disciplining and teaching the disciple. So, it is the stuti of that Guru, that very self who is in each. It is not a simple praise. What do we got to do with the praise? But then you will find each one of them, even though it looks externally that as if it is a hymn of praise, each one is a sadhana. The spiritual practice we have to adopt to reach the highest state of merging in the universal, into the absolute consciousness. Each one has been selected very crisp and sharp. All the various methods enunciated in all the Upanishads, in the entire Brahma Sutra, has been given in a very succinct and crisp form so beautifully. And that is the Guru Stuti, which we are now going to see. And now we have got that book, Shankara Digvijaya. It has got a beautiful Vyakhyana by one of the oldest of scholars, known as Dhanasuri. So his Vakya is called Dindima Vyakya. We have got it in our library. It's a beautiful one. It's very sharp. Again, these Vyakyanas, you will not find them going into words and words and words. Not at all. They're very crisp. So we start the first shloka. We are going to do this Guru Stuti, then later on we'll be taking another work of, that is, previously we had done Devi Kalutra, one of the best of the Agama text, where an absolutely new concept of a spiritual practice of directly going to the supreme consciousness without any need of japas, acharas and disciplines has been given. We have finished it. And similarly, there is another one. So these have all been chosen by Bhagavan. See, Bhagavan is not one to choose ordinary things. Unless they were pure jnana, I don't think he has ever touched anything which is not 100% pure jnana. And there again, Bhagavan has translated these things all into Tamil. You and I translate it, either for getting our name somewhere in the papers, translated by Swami Shantananda or something like that, or for various other reasons like, Bhagavan, why did he translate? You know, he was extremely reluctant to translate anything at all. There were occasions when he had read many of these things because somebody or other used to come and give him the books. He would just go through them casually, but they all used to be in his photographic memory. And then suddenly one day, the Tamil version of it developed. It was just a bubble up in him. He couldn't avoid it. So he will just record the translation of 2 or 3 of those verses. And then he will show it to somebody. Then naturally the other one say, Bhagavan, why don't you finish the entire book? It will be so nice of you if you can do it. Eh? What are you talking? Is it my only duty? Nothing doing. That's all. But again after a week, that same force which made him develop in his mind with the translation, it will again come out. He will again translate 5 or 6. And then one day he will say, hey, bring a good notebook. I don't think it is going to leave me. It is forcing me to write it. Come on, let us write it regularly. Then he will copy it and he will write it. This is how it is, Bhagavan. So each one of them is a treasure. Otherwise you will not untouch it. Here itself, you know, they sing 2 more slokas apart from what is given here. They start. But they are not that much on jnana. So he has just selected those 9 slokas, even though there were about 11, where only the pure tattva is there, the pure reality is being described, where the pure consciousness is being described, where the spiritual practices which will take us to it are being described. So that is the beauty of it. So Bhagavan never translates anything which is not pure jnana. And this is one of them where Bhagavan had translated it. We will go through the original in Sanskrit and then we will discuss about it. So the first shloka is Neti neti tyadi nigama vajanena Nipunam nishidhya murta murtarashim. The wording is nijidhya. It is wrong. It should be nishidhya. I have verified from the original book also. It is an authority. So, it is nishidhya. Instead of G, you make it as she, S-H-I. Nipunam nishidhya murta murtarajim yadasatya ninhatvam swatma rupataya jananti ko vidas tattvamasi tattvam. These songsters, these disciples who have come, they are not only scholars, they can sing beautifully. They come as the guys of musicians. So they sing this. Here they say, Tattvamasi tattvam. This is the refrain which is being repeated in every one of these shlokas, the second one, the third one, the fourth one. What does it mean? O king, you are not a king. Tattvam. Tattvam means the reality, the only reality. Then what is the other Tattvam? Tatil Tvam Asi. In one way it is called Tattvam. In the other case you will have to break it up as Tatil Tvam. Tvam means you. Tat means that Supreme Being, that Overlord, whom we call it as the Absolute, the Universal, the Supreme Consciousness, we may call him anything. So you are that. You are not any of these human beings or anything. You may be wearing the guise of a human being, but you are not that. Your real form is something else. This is only a costume which is assumed in this drama of life. This is not your original. Go back into your green room, you take off the costume, then you will find you are that reality. Tattvamasi tattva. Then he is going to describe one of the very first and most popular method of reaching that absolute. This practice is very common, and almost it is this which is covered up in half of the Ribhugita. The Ribhugita, which is one of the most popular treatises which are being read here on Sundays and all that, and which Bhagavan Ramana used to recommend to everybody, half of it consists of, in detail, this method. What is this method? This method is, we don't see, after all, we are all human beings with reasoning powers and logic. So, we should be able to develop a sense of discernment or discrimination. We should be able to separate the chaff from the grain. The entire thing is all that. So the first method of reaching the absolute is find out, because we are always told by the Upanishads and everywhere that Atman is changeless. Atman has no end. You cannot bring it to an end. It has neither a beginning nor an end. It always is. Isness is one of its attributes. That is what is called the Sat. Isness. So, from that point of view, you see, can this might be the law? No, it can't be. It has been manufactured 7 years back, and we don't know whether it will last for another 15 years, 20 years even. So, this is an end, this is a beginning, it cannot be an Atma. So not this. Like this, whatever type of things it is there, what are all the objects in this world which are cognizable by your senses of perception? You are tasting something very sweet. Can it be the Atman? Some beautiful sweet dish, poison. Can it be the Brahman? No. This poison has been manufactured only this morning light. And second, it is Jada. It has no consciousness at all. The Atman has to be the supreme consciousness, but even we, the creatures, have got the consciousness. Even the systems have got the consciousness. The system maker has obviously to be the most intelligent and the most conscious one. Thus, you go on negating every item, object by object, you go on negating. No, this cannot be sound. No sound can be the God. No form can be the God. No smell can be the God. No particular, the sparsha, whatever gives you the sense of touch. So they cannot be. So whatever you are able to cognize through your five senses of perception, your eyes, your ears, your nose, your tongue, they cannot be. So that is called the neti process. Neti means not this, not this. Neti, neti, not this, not this. We normally quote an anecdote for this purpose. In Ramayana there is one Ram. he goes to the forest at the behest of his father. He goes along with his wife Sita. There is an important day where all the ladies go and worship the river Godavari, and all these sages and Ram, they're all sitting underneath a tree and talking to each other. He is new to that place, so he is introducing himself to other people and they're all talking. And Sita is new to all the other ladies of the sages. So when they are taking bath, each one of them asking, "Oh Sita, I am told that your husband is Ram, who is one of the greatest kings of Kosala, of Ayodhya. Who is that one?" Because many of them are from various places, so nobody knew the other one. Even there are about 100 of Maharshi sages have been assembled. They didn't know each other. So they are asking, the first one is sitting, "Is he your husband?" "No." She denied, "Nothing." "No, not this." Then, "Is that one, the second one?" "No." "That one?" "Not that, not that." "Four?" "Not that." Thus they negated all, only one was left. No need to ask. That should be your husband. So this is the method of not this, not this. When you negate everything else, everything in this world is negated, something is left. Where is the person who was negating? Not you, not you. Where is that fellow? Well, he's the one. Because he's the only one left. Obviously, it is myself, so I am that self, I am the Supreme Being, so not this, not this, not this, not this, I am the Supreme Being. So, this is a method by which we teach. It is a technique. It is a technique. Because in the ultimate analysis, there are several methods of looking at this final one. I mean, there are several methods of practices. In one, whatever you see, you consider as the Supreme Being. Here is Narayana, here is Narayana, here is Narayana, this Supreme Being, this Supreme Being. Vasudeva Sarvamiti, Samahatma Sudurlabha, consider everybody as the Lord, bow to everybody. See, that's one method. That is a different practice. So you can't mix up several methods. There is a different method. See, he is the infinite. The final one, the final goal is something which is infinite. The infinite obviously has got infinite approaches, infinite doors. So, you choose any one of the paths, you have to reach there. There is no question. Sometimes you will think, no, I want the easiest path. There is nothing called the easiest, there is nothing called the most difficult, because each one has got his own constitution, a spiritual constitution developed through the various tendencies accumulated in the past births. So naturally you have been doing some sadhana in the previous birth, you can't be going on fresh paths in each birth, and you are catching all of the same on which you have trodden in all your previous births. So it automatically comes to you, even though you may feel that after a lot of running about, you have caught hold of one method. It is not so. It is already predetermined, it has been pre-recorded in your cassette, and you ought to go by that path. There is no question. So this is one of the paths. He is mentioning it. Neti neti tyadi nigama vajanena. Nigama means the Vedas. Nigama vachanena. Vachanena means by the words. It is the Vedas which have given us this method. So according to the method enunciated in such profound texts as the Upanishads. Nigama means the Upanishads and other scriptural texts. So Nigama Vachanena, we have come to know this technique through the words of these Upanishads. What are these Upanishads? Upanishads are the recorded successful experiments conducted and proved by the sages of yore, of ancient wisdom. They are not some arbitrary conceptual tenets of anybody. They have all been proved, they have gone through it, they have experienced, and they have recorded it. We can't get such a thing. It is a rarity, and that is why they carry the spirit of conviction. You read it and you will know that this is not a story, this is not a myth, this is somebody's own experience. You can feel it through instinct when you go through some of these Upanishads. It raises you, even if your spiritual antenna has not been developed, even then many of us can feel the elevation when once you come across some of the Upanishadic passages of profound importance. Neti neti tyadi digama vachanena. Through the words of the Vedas, which teach you this method of neti neti ti adi. It teaches several methods. So adi means etc. etc. So here he is going to talk of the first method, which is called neti neti. Na means no. So not this, that is called neti neti. Neti neti tyadi. So there are several methods which they have taught us, including this neti neti business. That is not this, not this. Yes. Now by this method of not this, what do you do? Nipunam nishidhyam murta rashim. You will have to negate whatever objects are in this world, you will have to negate it in a very expert way. See, this is not something for a child. This requires an actual sense of discernment and discrimination. Unless you have the subtlety of the mind, don't think it is so easy. Because it is not a play of saying, oh, the Lord is not this pillar, the Lord is not this fan. No. Then it will look just like a play. It is not like that. You see, you have to do it sincerely, you have to think 100 times, and it is a very profound technique which has to be developed. How to do it, they have all been explained in various texts, like the Panchadashi, like the Vivek Chudamani. So there are a number of spiritual texts. Well, they are all giving the full details, and even if you read this Ribhu Gita, these are the Brahman. So both the methods are given there beautifully. See, whatever suits, one has to take it up, both of the methods, that is there. So it has to be done in expert way. Nipunam. Nipunam means don't take it cursorily, don't take it casually. It is something which has to be done with full discernment. So Nipunam in an expert way. Nishidhya. Nishidhya means negating it. No. That is called Nishedha. Nishedha is the noun. Nishidhya is the past participle, which means after having negated all the objects of the world in this expert way as not this, then what are all the things you are going to negate? He says, Murta Rashi. This world consists of two types of objects, Murta and Amurta. Murta means things with form. And there are various other subtle things too, which cannot be seen, which cannot be smelled, but you know they exist. So that is called the Amurta. She uses almost the very words from the Vedas. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says, Dvevava Brahmano Rupam Mortancha Yatha Amurtam Vayushchandarikshancha. The ultimate Lord, He manifests Himself in two different ways. As with form and as in the formless universe. That is, in other words, all this entire world of objects, the basic elements out of which they are made of, they are known as the 5 subtle elements. That is, the earth element, which is called the Prithvi, then what is called the water element is not the water we mean. See, we mean the subtle qualities which are behind this gross water. That is what is called the water element. There is a subtle element behind it. So, Prithvi, up, then Tejo, there is fire, Vayu, there is the air, then Akasha is space. So we used to call it ether because many of us are not aware that ether was a word which was introduced in between by the scientists, but it is more than about 40 years the word ether has been struck off the vocabulary of scientists. See, they were thinking all this empty space was occupied by something unseen, which they called it as ether. But then they have found, now according to the quantum research, there is nothing called ether at all. So the word ether has got no place in any dictionary now. But still, some of the older people continue to use it. So we only call it as space. Then, Nipunam Nishidya Murta Rashim. Rashim means a collection of objects. Rashi means a collection, the bundle. So the collection of the various objects in this world, which consists of both with form and without form. So with form means those objects which are made of earth, fire and water. So these have got form. Fire has got a form. And Prithvi, the earth has got a form. This is made of earth, this is made of earth. Don't think of mud as earth. Earth means this element that is there. Then there are 2 which are formless. Air, you can't see the air. So Vayu, then Antariksha, or what you may call as space, the Akasha. The space is something which is formless. So those 2, all the objects which are made of the space and air, they are called Amurtam. This is explained in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad in the 3rd chapter. Athamurtam Vayushchantarichancha. What is Amurta or formless? Formless means all the objects which are made up of the elements, the Vayu or the air and the space, the Antariksha. So here he says, all the objects in the world consisting of those which are made of earth, water and fire, as also those subtle elements which cannot be seen and which do not have form, that is the space as also the air. So all these objects, in other words, all the objects you will be negating, because all the objects have a beginning, have an end, or they are subject to transformations, they are subject to changes. So it cannot be the Atman, it cannot be the self, it cannot be the Supreme Self at all. And lastly, but not the least, none of them has got consciousness. Again, as many of you are new, these are all terms which is used easily without understanding it. What is consciousness? This is something which we should know thoroughly before we go into all these philosophies. What do you call as consciousness? Now, is this conscious? Normally, we talk from the layman's point of view. Don't go through what you might have read out of books. Is this conscious? No, it is not conscious. So this is insentient, we call it. What do you mean? The one who is not aware that I exist, I am, that is called a jada unconscious. The one who is aware of his self-existence, now I know I exist, he knows he exists, you know you exist, so we are all called the conscious objects. An animal knows that it exists. After all, there is the basic thought it could have. After all, its intellect is not that developed, so it can't think of philosophies. So the first thought, the basic thought is I exist, I am. So, that is called the consciousness. And wherever there is consciousness, all the other qualities follow. I can be kind, I can be compassionate. But this book, it cannot react. You slap it, it can't do anything. It can't talk to you back. It can't hit you back. And it cannot be kind. It cannot be compassionate. It cannot be loving. So love, kindness, compassion, these are all the concomitants of the consciousness. And that is why the supreme consciousness, we call it as all love, as all kindness, and all compassion. That is how we are conceived it. And it is very much there. When the Supreme Self is nowhere else, it is in your own self. And if you cannot be kind towards your own self, to whom are you going to be kind? If you cannot love yourself, whom are you going to love? So that is why we say the Lord is extremely kind, compassionate. The Lord is here. The self is the Lord, finally. I mean, that's a state. But then, as it is a difficult concept for all to follow, we externalize. As a Lord, we externalize Him as the Divine Mother, we externalize Him as Lord Shiva. It's perfectly okay. After all, the same thought process, the thought is all yours. All the thoughts emanate from your very self. So finally, they all join you. See, they are all means of communication with that Supreme. So through all these forms, you will cross them over and you have to reach that self. Provided we are sincere about it, provided we have a longing, not an ordinary longing, we have volcanic longing. That's how we do it. Now, then once you do, what is the result? Now we have said not this, not this, not this. Completely we have negated. What happens? You have denied everything. Then there is one which cannot be denied. You deny it and even the denial becomes an affirmative. This is not, this is not, this is not. You cannot say this is not, this is. Even if I were to say I am not, will you believe it? He will say, what foolishness, you are. So where even the denial is the affirmative, so you can never hide it anywhere. Yadasakya ninhatvam. Ninhatvam means hiding. Ninha means to hide something, to cover it. Ashakya means impossible. It is not possible to cover it at all. It is so evident. When once we have said that not this, not this, not this, whatever is left has to be that. It cannot be nil. It cannot be a vacuum. So what happens to the person who is saying not this, not this, not this? Then that is the self. So this self can never be denied. Self can never be denied because I exist. The self exists. How can I say the self doesn't exist? Even if you say, everybody will say, I am a fool only. If 1,000 people were to make a signature campaign and come and say, Swami Shantananda, you don't exist, will I believe it? No. I will say, oh, you do what you like, I know that I am. It's a direct knowledge which can never be sublated, which can never be cancelled. That is why he says, Yadasakya ninhatvam. Why? Why cannot be hidden? Because Swatma Rupataya. It is in the form of your own self. How can you deny yourself? How can you cover yourself? You are only the seeker. How can the seeker say, I don't exist? So, the seeker is the sought. So, the seeker can never hide himself. Swatma Rupataya. Rupa means the form. Swatma means one's own self. As it is in the form of one's own self, yadashakya ninnatvam. It is impossible to hide it, it is impossible to deny it. It does exist, and that is the ultimate, the absolute, the supreme being, or the supreme consciousness. Jananti Govidaha. This is how the wise men come to know. The wise men, after having denied everything, they finally come to an irreducible minimum, that is the self, which can never be denied, where even a denial is an affirmative. And the wise men know, that is myself. Kovida. Kovidaha, with, to know. Ko means who. What is Kovida? Kovida means wise. How the term came. Koham iti vidaha Kovidaha. The one who knows who I am. I am not the body, I am not this, I am not that. But I am the self. So the one who knows it, they are called wise and they are called Kovida. Jananti Kovidaha. Jananti means they know. The wise men know. What do they know? They know it is the self. Because everything has been denied, the self cannot be denied, so they knew Swatma Rupatve. So, that reality, that ultimate reality which is your own self, to which you have come by reducing it, by the process of elimination as not this, not this, that reality, or you, O king, wake up. Tattvamasi tattvam, tattva-tvamasi. So that ultimate supreme being, who is realized as one's own self, that you are, tattva-tvamasi. And what is that? That is the only reality. That is the tattvam. So, that you are Lord, you king, wake up. So, in a very subtle way, so that others cannot understand, they are talking to their master, Adi Shankara, in this way, and I think tomorrow we will follow it up from the next one.